All right, let's move on to the next problem here. Make sure I can get in here real quick. All right, the next problem, 2.1, number 17. Look at my book here real quick. So 2.1, number 17 says slopes of tangent lines. For the following functions, make a table of slopes of secant lines and make a conjecture about the slope of the tangent line at the indicated point. All right. So in this case, we've got let f of x equals 2x squared, and we want to calculate the slope of the secant line. What's kind of interesting here is really nothing's changed. The secant line is the average velocity. So if you go back and you look at 14, 15, 16, this is just done the same way. I think the big difference, though, is that they're not telling you what numbers to use. If I'm correct here, yeah, they're not. They're just saying do it at point 2. So there's a couple different ways you can go about this. You could pick numbers on both sides of point 2. I prefer just to use point 2 and then to perhaps keep getting closer and closer with that second point. So if I go 2, 2.1, then I go 2, 2.01, so on and so on and so on. So what do we need to do this? Well, we need the slope of the secant line. So we need to know what that formula is. Well, the secant line slope, so m secant, is actually equal to, and I've been doing it as s, but in this case it's probably f of, maybe we'll call it, let's call it f of x1 minus f of x0 over x1 minus x0. And again, you know, you might say, well, how do you know that's that formula, AJ? Well, it's not a magic formula. It's just the slope formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. But in this case, we're calling y f of x, which we typically do, right? I could replace this to y equals 2x squared. It'd be the same thing. So it's y1 minus y0 over x1 minus x0. I could have called this f of x2 minus f of x1 over x2 minus x1, whatever the case is, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So it is just the slope formula. This is nothing fancy that I came up with on my own here or anything. Now what we do need to do, though, is we need to come up with these versions here. So like one thing I need to know is I need to know what f of 2 is. So I say, well, 2 squared is 4, 4 times 2 is 8. Well, that seems pretty easy. I also need to know what f of 2.1 is. I need to know what f of 2.01 is. I need to know what f of 2.001 is. And I need to know what f of 2.0001 is if I'm going to use this. So remember, the 2, I'm just plugging into the function. F of 2 is 8. F of 2.1, this is where I could go back and pull up my calculator here. And I could say, okay, well, f of 2.1 squared is that times 2 equals 8.82. So I can come back in here now and I can write that down for 2.1. It's 8.82. And then I could go back and do another one here just to show you one more. If I want to do f of 2.01, well, it's 2.01 squared multiplied by 2 again. It's 8.0802. 8.0802. So 8.0802. Come in here, it's 8.0802. And I could do the rest of these. I'm not going to do them. You guys can do these on your own now, but it's 8.008 002. Just looking at my notes here. And then this one's going to be 8.000 80002. So I get some really monster numbers here that hopefully make sense. But now what I got to do is I got to put them in this m secant. So I'm going to start with this one right here. I'm going to say, well, m secant for these 2 points, 2 and 2.1, is going to be equal to, I'll take the bigger number, which is 8.82. I'm going to subtract 8. So that's my f of 2.1 minus f of 2. And then I need to do x1 minus x0. Well, that's just 2.1 minus 2. So this equals, what does this equal? 0.82 divided by 0.1. And if you're not sure what that is, you could always go into your calculator again. We shouldn't need to do this. Fairly simple. 0.82 divided by 0.1. That's 8.2. Well, that makes perfect sense, right? So that comes up as 8.2 for my number over here. So the slope of the secant line for the function at f of 2 and f of 2.1, the slope's going to be 8.2. If I wanted to do the next one, I might come down here and say, okay, well, this one's going to be m secant is equal to, now we're doing 2 and 2.01. So this is going to be 8.0802 minus 8. And now we've got 2.01 minus 2. So this is some number. Well, it's pretty easy. It's 0.0802 divided by 0.01. And just like before, it should just move over a couple decimal places. So if I'm divided by 0.01, it's just going to slide over a couple decimal places. It's going to be 8.02. And then the next one is going to be this one, subtract that one. Then this one, subtract that one. And so you're going to go to 8.002 and 8.0002. And so the conjecture, so let's make a conjecture about the slope at a single point. So then we can say that the slope at x equals 2 is equal to, we would say 8. Okay, we're going to guess that as we get closer and closer and closer to 2, this number is getting closer and closer to 8. So the m at x equals 2 is approximately 8. So that's 2.1, number 17.